In 1968, something unimaginable stirred beneath the oceans. 4 submarines from 4 different nations disappeared within just 4 months. No warning signals, no survivors, no explanations, nothing. These were not rusting relics of an earlier age. They were modern advanced machines, commanded by seasoned crews, and yet they slipped into the depths without a trace, leaving behind fragments of evidence that deepened the mystery more than the disappearances themselves. Was it pure chance? Or does something far more unsettling linger beneath the waves? By the end of this account, you will hear the startling evidence uncovered and the chilling questions it carved into history, questions we remain unable to answer. Let's begin. We start with the INS Dakar, once a British T-class submarine from World War II. The Dakar had been modernized by the 1960s into a state-of-the-art vessel. Israel had purchased and painstakingly refurbished her, placing their trust and the lives of 69 men into her steel frame. On January 9, 1968, Dakar left Portsmouth, England, bound for Haifa, Israel. The mission was meant to be simple, less than 3 weeks at sea. For most of the journey, nothing seemed out of place. Dakar checked in regularly, sending precise reports of her position. But on January 24th, as she neared the eastern Mediterranean, the story shifted. That evening, the submarine transmitted a routine message, reporting nothing out of the ordinary, and then silence. No distress call, no cry for help. By January 25th, the Dakar was declared missing. The search that followed was immense. Israel mounted one of the largest naval rescue missions in its history, joined by the U.S. Navy and other allies. Ships swept across the Mediterranean, aircraft circled endlessly, sonar probed the deep. Yet Dakar seemed to have been swallowed whole by the sea. Not until 1999, over 3 decades later, was her wreck discovered, resting nearly 3,000 meters down between Cyprus and Crete. Her hull was torn apart, broken in 2, but the cause of her doom remained elusive. Some point to catastrophic mechanical failure, others whisper of collision or even sabotage, but the truth is still sealed in silence. And then, just 2 days after Dakar disappeared, another submarine met the same fate. This time, it was the French submarine Minerve. Minerve was a diesel-electric submarine, modern, agile, and reliable. Commissioned in 1964, she was considered a dependable craft. On January 27, 1968, she was running a routine training exercise only a few miles off the coast of Toulon, France. The sea was restless that morning, strong winds and rolling waves, but nothing unusual for the Mediterranean. At 7:55 a.m., Minerve sent her final message, confirming her position and expected arrival time. All appeared normal, but minutes later, there was nothing. She never reached port, no emergency signals, no final plea. The French Navy immediately launched a desperate search. It was massive in scope. Ships and planes swept the waters around Toulon. Even Jacques Cousteau joined, bringing his team's advanced tools to scour the seabed. But nothing was found. Not a fragment, not a shadow. For more than 50 years, her fate was one of the Mediterranean's darkest enigmas. Only in 2019, with advanced sonar mapping, was her wreck finally discovered 45 kilometers south of Toulon, resting over 2,300 meters deep. The finding brought long-awaited closure, yet it also ignited fresh doubts. The wreck suggested a sudden and catastrophic event, perhaps a mechanical failure or the violent turbulence of storm-tossed seas. But without deeper investigation, the cause remains speculation. What made Minerve's disappearance especially haunting was her proximity to safety. Unlike Dakar, lost in the open Mediterranean, Minerve vanished within sight of home, just miles from her own port, 52. Sailors gone in an instant. Only 2 days after Dakar, the Mediterranean, often calm, almost predictable, had become the stage for 2 of the Cold War's most haunting enigmas. 2 submarines gone in less than a single week. The sea, usually serene, now hid 2 of the Cold War's darkest secrets. And yet, it was not only the Mediterranean. Far from its calm blue waters, in the vast, frozen expanse of the Pacific, another submarine was preparing to vanish. This time, it was the Soviet submarine K-129. The K-129 was a Golf II class ballistic missile submarine, a formidable weapon of the Cold War. She carried nuclear arms, 3 ballistic missiles capable of obliterating any target within her reach. On February 24, 1968, she departed from the Rybiki submarine base in the far eastern Soviet Union for a routine patrol. Like most missions of this tense era, her voyage was cloaked in secrecy. For weeks, the K-129 prowled unseen beneath the surface, a phantom drifting through the Pacific. But sometime in early March, the silence broke. She failed to report back. At first, Soviet authorities dismissed it as a communications error, something common enough for submarines operating deep below. Yet as days slipped by, worry hardened into alarm. A vast search operation was unleashed. More than 40 ships and dozens of aircraft combed the Pacific, scouring thousands of miles of empty ocean. But despite the enormity of their efforts, no trace of the K-129 appeared. The Soviets were left in disbelief. A submarine of her size and power did not simply vanish unless catastrophe had struck. Unknown to Moscow, the U.S. Navy had heard something unusual on their secret SOSUS network. A clandestine underwater array designed to follow Soviet subs. They had captured an acoustic anomaly northwest of Hawaii. It resembled an explosion deep, powerful, and far-reaching, recorded on March 8, 1968. Guided by this evidence, the U.S. Navy pinpointed the wreck of the K-129 nearly 5,000 meters down. Her hull lay shattered, torn apart by the colossal pressure of the abyss. For the Americans, it was a revelation. For the Soviets, it was another dead end. But the story was not finished. In 1974, 6 years after the K-129 slipped into dark, CIA mounted a covert operation of staggering ambition. They called it Project Azorian, a mission to haul pieces of the wreck from nearly 5 kilometers beneath the Pacific, feat never before attempted. This was no ordinary recovery. It was one of the boldest, most expensive deep-sea salvage projects in history. The CIA is said to have spent over $800 million, billions in today's value, to construct the Glomar Explorer, a colossal vessel designed for one purpose. Publicly, it was masked as part of a deep-sea mining project that covers so intricate it misled almost everyone, including global observers. Why go to such extremes? Because the K-129 was no ordinary wreck. She held nuclear warheads, encrypted communications gear, and possibly priceless intelligence on Soviet military technology. The U.S. believed that even fragments of her hull could reveal insights into the USSR's nuclear strength and secret strategies, knowledge that could tilt the balance of the Cold War. The veil over Project Azorian was so tight it stayed classified for decades. Even today, much of what the CIA discovered lies hidden, feeding speculation about what truly surfaced from the ocean floor. The mission achieved only partial success, with a massive claw-like capture vehicle. The Glomar Explorer lifted part of the wreck, a staggering engineering triumph. Among what was raised were torpedoes, portions of the control room, and the remains of several Soviet sailors to rest with military honors at sea. Beyond these fragments, the truth of what was recovered remains sealed. Questions endure over what secrets were truly pulled from the deep. Was it nuclear arms, the encrypted devices, or something even more unsettling? Official accounts remain deliberately vague, and speculation about the CIA's hidden motives only deepens the fog. As for why K-129 sank, theories are as confounding as her disappearance. Some believe mechanical failure, perhaps a missile detonation, or a critical structural collapse. Others suggest a collision with the USS Swordfish. At a Cold War clash both sides agreed to bury, and still, the Soviets put forth darker suspicions. Sabotage by a rogue crewman, perhaps an attempt to defect with nuclear weapons, ending in disaster. Yet here is where the tale grows stranger still. The sinking of the HK-129 was not alone. Only weeks earlier, the INS Dakar and Minerve had perished just as mysteriously. 3 advanced submarines from 3 nations gone without warning. Could some unknown force have claimed them all? Whatever truths the K-129 holds, they remain locked in her broken frame, still lying in the silent depths of the Pacific untouched, as unfathomable as the enigmas of the other submarines, lost in 1968. And now, we turn to the USS Scorpion, among the disappearances of that fateful year. Hers is the best recorded and, perhaps the most haunting. The Scorpion was a skipjack-class nuclear submarine, one of the U.S. Navy's most advanced, sleek, swift, and lethal. She was built for a single purpose: to hunt and destroy enemy subs. In an era when the United States and Soviet Union teetered on the edge of war, every deployment carried the gravity of the Cold War. The Scorpion's mission was no exception. In May 1968, the Scorpion began her return to Norfolk, Virginia. After a month-long Mediterranean deployment, she had shadowed Soviet fleets, gathered intelligence, and carried out routine operations. Routine only in appearance, never in truth. On May 21st, the Scorpion sent her final transmission. The crew relayed their position and estimated arrival. In Norfolk, all appeared normal. Her return was imminent. But on May 26th, 5 days later, the Scorpion never arrived. No signals, no distress calls, only silence. The U.S. Navy launched an urgent search. Ships and aircraft swept across the Atlantic, deploying sonar buoys, chasing her last known trail. Her final reported position was May 21st, steering searchers toward the waters southwest of the Azores, but the ocean is vast beyond comprehension and finding the trace of a submarine in its depths was a near impossible task. Weeks slipped by, yet still no word from the Scorpion. Families waited, their hopes stretched thin, clinging to the impossible dream that loved ones might still return. That dream ended on June 5th. The U.S. Navy declared the Scorpion officially lost along with her 99 souls. It was another devastating mystery. Not until October did the ocean give up her grave. Using the deep-sea submersible, Trieste Segundo, the Navy discovered the wreck more than 3,000 meters down in the Atlantic. The images chilled the heart. The Scorpion lay shattered, her hull torn apart, wreckage scattered across the seabed like bones of a leviathan. What had destroyed her? Theories erupted. Some claimed a torpedo malfunction, one of her own weapons, detonating inside her belly. Others argued for mechanical failure, flooding in the engine room, perhaps, or a reactor crisis that spiraled beyond control. But there were darker whispers that she had been hunted, that a Soviet submarine struck her down in vengeance for the loss of the K-129. The Cold War was a shadow conflict, secrets wrapped in lies, truths buried in silence. The Scorpion's fate only deepened suspicions that beneath the waves, wars were fought in silence and hidden graves. Even now, the Navy maintains the official cause of the sinking is unknown. Yet the secrecy, coupled with the strange timing of so many submarine losses in 1968, has fueled conspiracy theories that refuse to die. Step back and trace the pattern. In only 4 months, 4 submarines from 4 nations vanished beneath the sea. Israel's Dakar, France's Minerve, the Soviet K-129, America's Scorpion. All were modern, all commanded by skilled, disciplined crews, and none sent a single distress signal. Statistically, the odds of such a sequence being random verge on the impossible. So what happened? One explanation lies in the submarines themselves. In the 1960s, they were marvels of engineering, but also experiments with steel and fire. A single electrical spark, A design flaw, or an unnoticed crack in a pipe, could trigger catastrophe. Another possibility: the Cold War itself. Submarines stalked one another constantly, a silent dance of hunter and hunted. Perhaps a series of confrontations, spun out of control collisions, weapon mishaps, or even deliberate strikes that were smothered under the weight of secrecy, lest they ignite a wider war. And then there are theories that stray beyond the ordinary. Some suggest hidden natural forces, submarine volcanoes, violent undersea earthquakes, rogue waves, or vast bursts of gas erupting from the seabed, forces capable of swallowing steel giants without warning. Others speak of stranger possibilities, still forces beneath the ocean science has yet to touch, phenomena no radar or sonar can explain. Whatever the truth, the disappearances of 1968 remain among the great unsolved mysteries of the sea. Each wreck has been located, each has been examined, yet none has yielded a final, definitive answer. We are left only with fragments, twisted metal, scattered debris, and official files sealed away in vaults. For the families, the wound is eternal. Their fathers, husbands, brothers went to sea in silence and never returned. For historians and seekers of truth, the questions only multiply. Why for submarines? Why in so short a time? Was it cruel coincidence, or a chain of events bound together by something darker, until secrets are unsealed, or until the ocean herself surrenders more evidence? The answer lies beneath thousands of meters of cold water, silent, unyielding, a mystery that resists every attempt to be solved. 1968 is remembered for upheaval on land, protests in the streets, assassinations that shocked nations, political crises that reshaped history. Yet in the oceans, something stranger, quieter, unfolded. For submarines, for nations, for vanishings. The Israeli Dakar, the Frenchman, the Soviet K-1-9, the American Scorpion. Each disappeared in different seas, under different circumstances, yet all within just months of one another. No single thread has ever been proven to link them, but the coincidences are too sharp to ignore. Consider the Cold War. By the late 1960s, the world stood on a knife's edge. The United States and the Soviet Union raced to dominate space, stockpiled nuclear arsenals, and pushed new machines to their limits. Submarines were at the heart of this duel. Stealthy, silent, hidden in black water, they carried missiles powerful enough to erase entire cities in minutes. They were hunters, guardians, and symbols of global deterrence. It is possible, even likely, that some of these submarines crossed paths in ways never revealed to the public. Theories persist that the K-129 and Scorpion were locked in a shadow confrontation, their fates bound together, their losses hushed up to prevent open war. The Dakar and Minerve, some argue, succumbed to technical failures, or perhaps to something stranger still. But troubling details linger. Why did none of the submarines transmit proper distress calls? Even in sudden catastrophe, safeguards existed to send an alert. Yet silence answered every time. Why did searches, vast and expensive, fail so completely at first? It was as though the subs had been erased, leaving no trace until years or decades later. And why did all of this happen in 1968? Not before, not after. Patterns this sharp are rare. When they do appear, they often point to hidden forces, human or natural, that defy easy explanation. In the decades since, technology has leaped forward. Sonar has mapped seabeds, deep-diving craft have recovered wrecks once thought unreachable, and archives have shed light on long-classified missions. Yet the mysteries of 1968 endure. For Israel, the Dakar's sudden loss still divides opinion, accident or sabotage. For France, the discovery of the Minerve offered closure, but no definitive cause. For the Soviet Union, the K-129 remains a tale wrapped in secrecy and Cold War suspicion. For the United States, the Scorpion's loss raises enduring doubts about both technology and geopolitics. Each wreck is a puzzle piece. Together, they form a picture no one has yet solved. Some say coincidence, others whisper of confrontation. A few look deeper toward forces beyond human control. Perhaps one day answers will come. A locked archive opened, a hidden memo released, or a new expedition uncovering evidence preserved in the deep. But for now, the truth lies sealed beneath thousands of meters of cold water. The submarines remain there still, silent, broken, guarding their secrets. The men aboard, hundreds of sailors from 4 nations, rest entombed in steel, honored in memory. Lost to the sea, the oceans keep their mysteries well, and 1968 endures as one of the strangest, darkest chapters in naval history. 99 sailors aboard the USS Scorpion were lost in a single instant. The wreck was found, but the truth never was. For the families, the questions still echo decades later, and the Scorpion was not alone. In just 4 months, 4 submarines from 4 nations vanished: the INS Dakar, the Minerve, the K-129, and the USS Scorpion, each with its own story, each surrounded by theories, yet all swallowed by the same endless silence of the sea. Was it all just coincidence, or something more? Sabotage, accidents, or forces we still do not understand? What do you believe happened? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments. I'll be reading them. If this journey into the deep and the unknown intrigued you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, so you never miss the next story. Until then, stay safe.